Let's get down to business.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money moves.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast. My name is Joseph Mencel. I am your host. Guys, those of you who follow me on Instagram at Joseph Mencel, you guys would know that I rock I call it my weekend Q&A. So Ask Me Anything Q&A on through Instagram stories that I run. I usually put it up on Saturday and get back to questions Sunday and then Monday as well. And I put up my weekend Q&A last weekend and I had a whole bunch of questions. A whole bunch of comments, and then you know how on the Instagram story you can use the question box to write a question, or you can, respond to the actual story. A whole lot of story responses as well. People asking for my advice, and pretty much the tone of the messages, the tone of the responses, the tone of what they were asking for with advice was something along the lines of this. This pandemic has been going on longer than I expected. Perhaps you expected 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Now we're into, depending which country you're in and how long you've been locked down, let's say anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks. It's been going on longer than I expected. And I found myself in a place where I'm completely out of control. My routine, the shit has completely hit the fan with my routine. I look at myself in the mirror every night and I'm disappointed at what I see. I'm feeling sorry for myself. My headspace is really negative and I need your help. I just don't know where to start. I need your help. Where do I start? How do I get out of this rut? And I must have had, guys, I'm telling you, I would say close to about 50 between the question responses and the actual DMs about this and different variations of this. It was overwhelming to the point where it motivated me to do this episode. And I think that the current pandemic is obviously a magnifying glass of this current situation, but this is a period that a lot of us have been through at some point in our lives, are going through right now, or will go through in the future, where we for whatever reason, we don't know how it happens. We find ourselves in a rut and we just don't know how to get out of it. And I've been inspired by that and by those messages and by those Q&A responses. So for those of you who sent those, I just want to thank you first and foremost for inspiring me to do this episode. I'm calling this the routine reshuffle. And I want to give you guys some real basic, practical advice on where to start to get yourself out of this rut. If you find yourself in this rut right now, this is going to be super useful for you right now because you're going to listen to this episode. You're going to take notes in this episode. You're actually going to go and apply everything I talk about in the next 10 or so minutes, and you're going to start getting yourself out of this rut. If you're not in a rut at the moment, save this episode because I guarantee you there will be a point in your life where you are in this position and you're going to need this practical advice. So the routine reshuffle. I want you guys to think of a time in your life where you have been in the most positive headspace. You've just been feeling really good about yourself. You just feel on top of the world. You feel like you're invincible. I want you to think back to at least one of those times because we've all had multiple of them in our lives. And I want you guys to recall what it was that made you feel like that. And I already know the answer to that question. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to think about one of those examples. I'm going to think of one myself. And I know by the fact that you're tuning into this podcast, in particular, Fitness Times Business, and you know the sort of content that I cover, that time was because you either accomplished something difficult or you achieved something that was outside of your comfort zone, or you did something that made yourself feel proud of yourself. You are really proud of yourself. What we're going to try and do to get you out of this rut, with this routine reshuffle is to recreate that by starting to stack really small wins on top of each other. That's where we're going to go. But before we go there, the first thing, I know a bunch of you guys are listening to a bunch of my content, which means you're probably the sort of people who are setting smart goals for yourself. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. You probably set these really long-term smart goals, and then you've broken them down into short-term smart goals. And your daily routine, your daily habits, the way that you feel about whether you're accomplishing, whether you're progressing is probably tied to those short-term smart goals. Guys, you need to just press pause on those right now. You have to. Because of the current pandemic, there are so many things that are outside of your control that if you continue to focus on your short-term smart goals, you're going to continue to look at yourself in the mirror every night and think that you're moving nowhere. Think that you're spinning your wheels. And it's going to be very difficult for you to get out of this rut. This is why I'm calling it a routine reshuffle. Because I want to take all of our short-term smart goals and I just want to press the pause button on them right now. Keep the long-term smart goals in mind because your long-term smart goals should be, 12-month, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year type goals. Keep those in mind because we know that the current circumstances are short-term. What it means is we need to press pause on the short-term smart goals and the way that we're measuring progression against those smart goals. We need to keep the long-term smart goals in check, and we're going to switch from measuring our achievement, measuring our accomplishment, and measuring the amount of pride that we feel within ourselves. We're going to shift it from moving towards achieving short-term smart goals, and we're going to focus it on building routines that support habits that once this current situation is over, once we get out of this rut, once we start stacking wins on wins on wins on wins, we're going to be in the best possible position to flip that switch back to focusing on our short-term smart goals. So the routine reshuffle, this is what we're going to do, guys. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to forget the last 4 to 8 weeks. However long it's taken you to get to this position where you consider yourself in a rut, we're going to take that, we're going to throw it in a box, we're going to lock the fucking box up with a chain and a key, and we're going to throw the fucking box in the ocean. That is gone. The 4 to 8 weeks is gone. Don't give it any more thought. You can't go back. You can't fix it. It's not even worth thinking about. It is what it is. You are where you are. The routine reshuffle is going to help you get out of it. That's the first step. Forget it. The second step, we're going to start stacking these small wins. And how are we going to stack these small wins? We're going to start making promises to ourselves that we keep. You guys have heard me talk about this in many different pieces of content. I've actually spoken about it in this podcast before. Making promises to yourself that you keep. It's a way of personal accountability. It's a way of making sure that you do what you say you're going to do. And when you do what you say you're going to do, you start to feel a feeling of accomplishment and a feeling of pride, and it starts to stack small wins in your mind and change your mindset. But there's going to be a specific way that we do this, guys, because the current circumstances and the fact that we're in this rut kind of limit us to the sorts of promises that we can make that we know we're going to be able to keep with ourselves. So we're going to strip it right back. That's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go get a notebook or whatever, something that you can write down with. Notebook and a pen. I want you to take one page in this notebook and allocate one page per week. So you're going to have one page, like I have a notebook in front of me right here. There's an A4 notebook. You can use one this size. You can use a smaller one, bigger one, whatever. Doesn't matter. You're going to take this one page and you're going to allocate 1 week per page. You're going to write the days of the week. So you're going to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in one page. So you can see a whole week, Monday through to Sunday, on one page. Under each day, you're going to write the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next to those numbers, you're going to pick one promise for each of the 5 most important areas of your life that you're going to keep to yourself for that day. One promise per 5 most important areas of your life. So for me, Promise number 1 is going to be family. Promise number 2 is going to be fitness. Promise number 3 is going to be business. Promise number 4 is going to be personal, my personal life. Promise number 5 is going to be community. I'm going to make a promise to myself for each area of my life, for those 5 most important areas per day. So for Monday, I'm going to have 1 through 5, 1 promise. Tuesday, 1 through 5. Wednesday, 1 through 5. Thursday, 1 through 5. You want to do this at the start of every day. So the first thing I do on Monday, open up my notebook, go to Monday. All right, what's the 1 promise I'm going to keep to myself for my family life? Write it down. What's the 1 promise I'm going to keep to myself for my fitness? Write it down. What's the 1 promise I'm going to keep to myself for my business? Write it down, so on and so forth. Next morning, Tuesday, same thing. Next morning, Wednesday, same thing. Start of the day, you make the promises. Those are the promises you're going to keep. A couple of things about these promises. They need to be specific. They need to be actionable. And they need to be within your realm of control. You have to be very specific with them so that you can say, yes, I did that, or no, I didn't do that. Yes, I kept that promise, or no, I didn't keep that promise. They need to be actionable, so it's a choice of whether you do or don't do it. And they need to be within your realm of control. So there's no excuse that you can have at the end of the day for not keeping one of those promises to yourself. So you're going to have to give it some thought. Specific, actionable, within your control. As you go through your day, and you complete each one of these promises, and you can do them whatever order you want, you're going to take your pen and you're going to put a line through it. 5 promises done. Finished. You know what you've done? You've won the day. You know what winning that day is going to do when you look at yourself in the mirror that night because you kept each one of those 5 promises that you made to yourself? You're going to feel a sense of pride. You're going to get up the next day. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep those 5 promises. You look at yourself in the mirror at night before you go to bed, you're going to feel a sense of pride. You're going to stack a daily win on Monday with a daily win on Tuesday. Might fuck up Wednesday. You come back Thursday, get another win. Might fuck up Friday. Saturday, another win. Sunday, another win. You're going to start stacking these wins. As you start stacking these wins, I want these promises to start to move to a realm where they are pushing you outside of your comfort zone ever so slightly and starting to challenge you a little bit. Because if you're making promises at the start, which is okay because we just need to get some momentum going here, guys. We need to start stacking some wins. So let's say, for example, I don't know, one of your promises is that you're going to keep your gratitude journal. That might be for your personal life. You're going to fill your gratitude journal, complete your gratitude journal. Good. And you start doing that every day. It's pretty much part of your routine. It's not really challenging anymore. You need to take that off and replace it with something else that's a little bit more challenging. It's a little bit more uncomfortable. And the reason why you have to do that is because that's going to continue to reinforce this feeling of pride. That's going to continue to change your mindset. As you go through this notebook, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're trying to keep every one of the 5 promises to win the day. You're then trying to win every day to win the week. As you win 4 and a bit weeks in a row, you win the month. And this is how we're going to start stacking wins, guys. Day by day, week by week, month by month. A couple of disclaimers for this routine reshuffle that I want you guys to keep in mind right from the start. The goal is to keep every promise you make to yourself every day. Start stacking the days, stack the weeks, stack the months. Start getting back into this winner's mindset. Make no mistake about it, you're not going to win every day right from the start. You're not going to win Monday, win Tuesday, win Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and win your first week. Very rare. You might win Monday and Tuesday. You might slip up on Wednesday. Maybe you keep 2 of the 5 promises. Thursday, you might keep 3 of the 5. Friday's a good day. You keep all 5. Saturday, Sunday, you keep all 5. So you've won 4 out of 7 days. You haven't won the week, and that's okay. You can't expect to win every day right from the start. This is a process, guys. This is about slowly changing your mindset from the mindset of somebody who's defeated, from the mindset of somebody who's in a rut, to slowly starting to stack these wins and changing that mindset into a winner's mindset. Changing that mindset into a triumphant mindset. Changing that mindset from negative to positive in the most basic fashion possible. And that's going to take time. Just like it took the 4 to 8 weeks of the current pandemic to get yourself into this rut, it's going to take at least the same amount of time to get yourself out of this rut. You can't click your fingers and expect to win every day, win every week, win every month. It's a process. So don't be too hard on yourself if you win the first couple of days and fuck up the third, or fuck up the fourth, or fuck up 3 or 4 days in a row. That's okay. It's a process. It's about changing your mindset. The second disclaimer is to shorten your refractory period. There's a lot of shit going on at the moment, guys, that is outside of our realm of control. There's a lot of things coming in our direction that, has the ability to negatively affect our mindset and cause us to experience negative emotions that consequentially will push us into even more of a rut, even more of a negative mindset. When I talk about shortening your refractory period, this is something that I practice myself day in, day out, regardless of if we're in the middle of a pandemic or not, is I will not ever have a bad day. I just won't do it. If something happens in the morning, I will not allow that to affect the entire day. I encourage you guys, instead of measuring the experience of negative emotions in days and going, oh man, I'm having such a bad day, or I had such a bad day the other day, measure your experience of negative emotions in hours. Now, I'm not saying, I need to be very clear here. I'm not saying that you should never experience negative emotions. That is a recipe for disaster. I'm saying some shit happens, it puts you in a bad mood, experience the negative emotion, sit with the negative emotion, allow the negative emotion to completely flood your body. But don't allow it to do that for the entire day. Give it an hour and come back to your list of promises. Not long enough. All right, give it 2 hours, come back to your list of promises. Maybe it takes 3 or 4 hours, come back to your list of promises. You got 24 fucking hours in a day. You're going to let something that's outside of your control affect the way that you're going to spend 24 hours of your day? That's a big problem. I encourage you guys to never have bad days. Have bad hours. Have bad mornings. Have bad afternoons. Have bad nights. Don't ever have a bad day. Sit with the negative emotions. Allow your body to experience them. Allow them to flood your body. And then come back to your list of promises and keep working through them. Get yourself out of that rut. The third and final disclaimer is to be kind to yourself. It's very easy for this routine reshuffle to backfire if you're being super hard on yourself because you only kept 4 of the 5 promises that you made to yourself at the start of the day, and you beat yourself up for it, and you feel like shit because of it. Man, you kept 4 or 5 promises. That's 80%. For someone who's in a rut, that's a pretty good fucking accomplishment. Be kind to yourself, guys. Understand that getting yourself out of a rut, out of negative headspace, out of negative mindset is a process. It's going to take time. Allow yourself the time to do it. Be kind to yourself. But at the same time, hold yourself accountable. If you only made 4 of the 5 promises, you only kept 4 of the 5 promises, make sure tomorrow you keep 5. If you only made 2 of the 5 promises, don't make excuses. You fucked up. That's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. The next day, try and keep 3 of the 5. The next day, try keep 4 of the 5. The next day, keep 5 of the 5. Be kind to yourself, but don't make excuses. Don't be too lenient. Hold yourself accountable. Those of you who have been tuning into this podcast for quite some time now would probably recognize this structure that I've just shared with you guys. It's a very simplified version of what I call my personal accountability calendar, which is something that I've been doing for the better part of 5 years now, that ensures that I'm doing things every single day that move me just a little baby step closer to achieving goals in different areas of my life. This is a very simplified, cut down version of my personal accountability calendar that I've kind of formulated specifically for the current circumstances, because I had so many of you guys reach out to me and want advice on how to get yourself out of the current rut. And it applies right now to the current circumstances, but it applies to any time that you find yourself in this current circumstance, whether it's caused by things that are completely outside of your control, like a pandemic, or things that perhaps you've just let slide for whatever reason. Whatever it is, this is really kind of the most basic, cut down, simplified version of my personal accountability calendar that I've shared with you guys in the past. And if you've tried implementing my personal accountability calendar framework in the past and it hasn't worked for you, perhaps this is a better place to start. So even if you're not in a rut at the moment, even if your mindset is kind of good, but you're looking to, level up a little bit, this is probably something that you should try and implement as well. I just want to finish by making sure that you guys understand that this is supposed to be hard. I've given in this podcast, I've laid it out, I've blueprinted it for you. That's the easy part. Implementing this is the hard part. Implementing, writing down the promises that you're going to keep to yourself each and every day and actually keeping them is supposed to be hard. Guys, if it was easy, everybody would do it. You've heard the saying before, it's fucking true. If it was easy, everybody would do it. This is not supposed to be easy. This is supposed to be hard. And in the last couple of episodes of Fitness Times Business, I've referred to this pandemic as the great exposer. It's the pandemic that is, when the tide goes out, you're going to find out who's been swimming naked. That's what this pandemic is. It's the great exposer. It's the great divider. It's the great equalizer. It's going to expose how bad you want to get back on top of your positive mindset. It's going to expose how bad do you want to put yourself in the best possible position you can be in, so that when this crazy fucking circumstance is over, you're able, in your stride, to get right back on track and progressing with your life, progressing towards your SMART goals, whatever those goals may be. How bad do you want it? You really got to make that decision right now. Do you want it? Do you want it really fucking bad that you're going to take this advice? You're going to go back and listen to this podcast again and take fucking notes and go and get your notebook and actually start putting this into practice, and every day write down the 5 fucking promises, and every day cross off the 5 promises and start stacking wins of days on wins of days and wins of weeks on wins of weeks, and start winning days and winning weeks and winning months? Is it actually important to you? You need to make that decision right from the start. If it is, fantastic, go and do it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. If it's not, well, guys, I've said it more than once now. This pandemic is exposing you. You actually don't want it that bad. You actually don't. I want you guys to give that some thought. And that's a wrap for this episode of Fitness Times Business, guys. I ask one thing and one thing only in return for this podcast, which we produce 100% free. There's no ads, there's no sponsors, there's none of that bullshit. I just get straight into the episode. I don't pause it and fucking put ads in the middle of this shit. I'm trying to give you guys the best practical information I can give each and every episode that's going to help you guys improve your lives through fitness, through business, through personal development. We've been talking about a whole bunch of shit recently. I'm just trying to help you guys get better. And the one thing I ask in return is that you share this podcast. You can share it person to person. You can tell your brother or your sister about it next time you FaceTime them. You can tell your mom or your dad about it. You can tell your work colleagues about it next time you guys have a Zoom meeting and you're talking about pieces of content that you watched or listened to over the weekend, you can take a screenshot right now of whatever podcasting platform you're listening to, post it in your Instagram story and tag me in it at Joseph Mencel. I love seeing that, man. I repost as many of those as I possibly can as well. However you share whatever content you consume, that's the one thing I ask in return of you guys is share this piece of content, share this podcast. We're trying to reach as many people as possible. Guys, you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.